Okay, so let's move on. So now I promise you one thing before we do the next couple stories. I am not sponsored by Disney. Um, Bob Iger just has a lot to say. Um, Disney is one of those companies that is just, it's supposed to be the happiest place in the world. And sometimes it's not. Um, so, anyways, the reason I bring this up is according to Bob Iger, this is Deadline that wrote this. Um, Bob Iger says Disney theme parks were priced too high in quote zeal to grow profit end quote. It's quote a brand that needs to be accessible end quote. Um, so this is by Deadline, like I said. Returned Disney CEO Bob Iger acknowledged that the fans had a right to be irked that theme park prices crept higher under the previous regime and said it wasn't the best way to manage the brand. Quote, I believe all of that always believed that Disney was a brand that needed to be accessible, he told a Morgan Stanley media conference on Thursday. And I think in our zeal to grow profits, we may have been a little too aggressive about some of our pricing. And I think that there is a way to continue to grow profits, but be smarter in how we price that so that we maintain the brand value of accessibility. Iger stepped back into Disney's corner office in November after former CEO Bob Chapek left in a sudden move that ushered in a wave of changes. At theme parks, Iger made a move Iger made a move by January, lowering some prices and adding some perks at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. That included Walt Disney World in Orlando, um, resuming complimentary self parking at resort hotels, relaxing reservation requirements for annual pass holders, and offering free photo downloads with Genie X. So the service. So I imagine that is their app type of thing. At Disneyland Anaheim, he expanded park hopping hours and added more of the lowest price day trip tickets, as well as the complimentary photos. The shift the shifts, quote, have resonated extremely well with consumers, and we will not only continue to listen to consumers, but we will continue to adjust, end quote. He noted that the challenge of trying to improve the guest experience by reducing crowding. Moves to do that can, quote, actually end up increasing the prices or putting features into pricing that are viewed by consumers are to be a little too aggressive, end quote. And he hinted at more expansion with, quote, new capacity and new attractions, end quote, including maybe led by California and focusing on Disney IP, like the recently announced rollout to Disneyland after another Avatar experience, such as the popular Pandora, the world of Avatar at Disney World's Animal Kingdom. The prices have been a massive business for Disney and have bounced back vigorously from the COVID shutdown, even without a return to normal levels of international visitors. Iger says parks have a history of resilience, citing grim periods during the recessions of '08 and '09 and the terrorist attacks of '01. So we meant 9/11. Um, I gotta say, it's about time. I'm not a Disneyland um, annual shareholder. I don't have any of their things. I like Disney products on a whole, but um, I don't, have any of that. I'm so happy that they're finally getting back to what it was at one point because Disney is supposed to be accessible to everybody, right? Um, I mean, with these rides and with these attractions and everything else, the fact is that look, you know, you know, you go there and whatever. Let's say you're going there for one ride, you know, and or two rides, and you want to get on those rides, it's booked up in seconds in their app. Um, John Campia actually, so somebody I follow on Twitter, well known, John Campia, has raved, not raved, but he's raved in anger about railed against Disney because of all that and everything else, and he said he'll never go back to Disney again. I would be curious to see if he would change his tune now that they're starting to go back and do these things. But nonetheless, this is what Disney needed, right? I think their parks need to be accessible to everybody. I mean, don't rock bottom the prices. I mean, they're still expensive, but at the same time, make sure everybody can get in. You know, um, I think it's so important that have that experience and do that with your family. Um, and look, I think I went to Disneyland once in my life. I don't think I'll ever go back. Not because I had a bad experience. It's just now the prices are too damn high. That's me personally. But if you have a family, you know, there's no reason why you can't go. Um, and I like the fact that Iger is listening to the consumers and finally getting things back on track. Um, this is great news, just in general, because it's one of those things where these guys, Mickey and Minnie, have been the staple of this for almost 100 years. And I'm glad to see that, this can definitely once again be the happiest place on earth. Um, so it's an interesting thing. I think Disney's starting to go in the right direction. But what do you guys think? Have you been to Disneyland out in California? Have you been to Disney World in Orlando? How often do you go? Are you a pass holder? If so, how often do you usually go per year? Um, Leave us your thoughts down in the comments and let me know what you think.